Welcome to a series of videos produced by the Minnesota Music Teachers Association. My name is Jake Fitzpatrick.
And I'm Rebekah Richards, and we are members of the MMTA Theory Development Committee.
The Judge Education Committee, along with the Theory Development Committee, is happy to introduce the series of videos detailing the 2015 theory program of MMTA. Committee members have given much time and thought, as well as their expertise and a lot of hard work in this endeavor. With all MMTA events, several guiding principles have emerged in all our instructions for judges. They include: be the kind of judge you would like to have judge your students.
Be friendly and welcoming.
Be nice.
Be approachable.
Use judging for MMTA as a bridge to parents, students, and teachers.
And remember, you are MMTA's representative that links us all together.
With all MMTA programs, please refer to the Handbook for Judges for complete information regarding an MMTA examiner's role and mission, as well as suggestions and preparation and guidelines for etiquette and critique writing.
Thank you for viewing this video. We trust it will be informative and encouraging as you educate your students in this vital area. The theory exam has 3 different components that make up the entire comprehensive theory exam. Those 3 components are the keyboard exam, the oral exam, and the written exam. Each component has its own guidelines for grading. For the purposes of this video, we will only focus on grading the keyboard exam. But here is some information about each. The keyboard exam is one-on-one with an examiner. Scores are recorded on a keyboard score sheet. This sheet has a section at the top for the student's overall score for all 3 parts of the exam. After the keyboard exam, this sheet is turned in to the site administrator, who will complete the upper section with the written and oral scores. The oral exam will be administered in one of 2 ways, depending on the size of the site. For large testing sites, the exam will be given in a group setting. A proctor will play a pre-recorded CD of the exam. In a separate room, a grader will score the exam. For smaller testing sites, the examiner will give the test one-on-one using the pre-recorded CD. In a separate room, a grader will score the exam. The written exam takes place in a separate room with a proctor. A grader will score the exam in a separate grading room.
The role of the examiner is to discover the extent of the student's knowledge. Here are some additional points to keep in mind as you judge the keyboard theory exam. If unsure, give the student the benefit of the doubt. Maintain a positive, patient, and relaxed attitude. Keep the exam moving, but try not to make the student feel hurried. Judge the performance without giving lessons at the exam. Use a post-it note for any comments to the teacher. If a student seems confused by specific terminology or questions, or in need of further explanation, the examiner may use discretion in offering clarifying instructions without giving away the answer. Be flexible in terminology. To ensure consistency in the examination process, please use the wording for questions included on the exam. Only the examiner and the student will be in the examination room during the exam. And be sure the student number is accurately recorded on all pages of the score sheets before the student leaves the testing room.
The Level 1 theory exam is, for many students, their first experience being tested in music theory and keyboard skills. Students are tested in 5 areas in the Level 1 keyboard practical test: playing major and minor pentascales, playing major and minor triads in root position, sight playing and transposing, playbacks, and clapbacks. Pentascales, let's take a look at those first. Pentascales are the first 5 notes of any major or minor scale. We test pentascales on keyboard students for many reasons. They allow a student to play all 5 fingers with each hand without crossing fingers or tucking other fingers under. They form a stepping stone to understanding how to create major and minor scales. And they are a stepping stone to understanding how to create major and minor triads. These patterns appear in all levels of music. The more familiar students are with the patterns and the more facility they have in playing them, the better. Students are required to play the pentascales in both parallel and contrary motion so that they develop strong facility with the patterns. When testing the pentascales, we are listening for two different concepts: pattern, the correct notes, and facility, hands together in parallel and contrary motion. Because we are listening for two different concepts, students are awarded up to 2 points per pentascale. Students receive 1 point if they play all the pitches correctly. Students receive another point for performing the pentascale with the correct motion. In Level 1, we also wish to be somewhat lenient while keeping in mind what the correct answers are. In Level 1 only, if a student misses one note, has a false start, or the finger slips, they can still receive full credit, as long as they immediately correct themselves and appear to know what the correct pentascale is. However, do not award points if a student needs to guess or relies on the sound to find the correct answer. A student is asked to play a D major pentascale in contrary motion. If the student plays the pitches of a D major pentascale in contrary motion, they will receive 2 points, 1 for the correct pitches and 1 for the correct direction. Here's an example of a correct performance. If the student plays the pitches of the D major pentascale but in parallel motion, they will receive 1 point only for correct pitches. If the student plays the right hand in D major but the left hand in C minor, but in contrary motion, they will receive 1 point only for correct direction. The student plays the first 3 notes of the D minor pentascale in the correct motion, but when they hear the minor sound, they quickly switch their third finger to F sharp and finish the pentascale correctly. Because this is Level 1, the student can still receive full credit for this pentascale. Students will be asked to play major or minor triads on the piano. These points are all or nothing. The triad pitches are either correct or they are incorrect. Students may play in any octave and with any combination of fingers and with any hand. You are to grade only on correct pitches. If a student plays incorrect pitches and then changes to the correct ones based on the sound, you may still award full credit, but only in Level 1. Sight playing is the longest component of the Level 1 keyboard exam. Students will clap or tap the rhythm, identify intervals by direction and size, identify the tonic with the mode given, play the pentascale, perform the piece, then transpose the pentascale, and then transpose the piece. Each student's test and examiner's packet has a list of directions. Please read these directions aloud to the students before each task. For example, read the first task to the student. Clap or tap the rhythm. You may count aloud if you wish. Now, identify the intervals by size and direction.
up a second, down a third, up a second, repeat, up a third, repeat, up a second.
Okay, now you can start at the beginning of the second line.
Repeat, up a second, down a third, up a second, down a third, down a second.
This piece is in a major key. What key is it in?
F.
If the student answers incorrectly, you must provide them with the correct answer. Play the F major pentascale in parallel motion. Performing the piece is the most subjective of all the scores. Refer to the rubric in the examiner's packet to determine what score to award the student. For example, a sight playing excerpt might be out of 4 points. You can award the student then a score of 0 to 4. Award 4 points for an excellent performance with a steady beat. For example, award 3 points for a good performance, but there may be some wrong notes, rhythms, or an unsteady beat. For example, award 2 points for a struggled performance, but the student makes it through. For example, if the student attempts and plays anything, award 1 point. Award no points only if the student does not play or refuses to play. Follow a similar scoring procedure for transposition. For the playback exercise, play the 4 notes in the examiner's packet on the piano while covering your hand with a sheet of paper so the student cannot see. Tell the student that you will play 4 notes and in which pentascale you will play. Play the set twice with a short pause between each playing. Then have the student play the set back for you. The instructions tell the student which position their hand is in. However, you may assist the student if they place their hand in the wrong octave or wrong position for this exercise. Here we are not testing fluency in key names and positions, but rather we are testing the ability to orally remember and then tactily reproduce a melody. Students receive 2 points for a correct playback, 1 point for playing anything. Award no points if the student refuses to play. We're going to do a playback now. I'm going to play 4 notes starting on D, using only the white keys. But I'm going to cover up my hand. And then I'll play it twice, and then you'll have to play it back. So here we go. Let me play it again. Okay, now you play it. You'll be starting on this D. Clapback is the same concept as playback, but this exercise focuses on rhythm rather than pitch. First, count aloud 2 measures. Then, clap the rhythm in the examiner's packet. Give a short pause. For the second time, announce, "Here's the rhythm one more time." Again, first count aloud 2 measures, then clap the rhythm in the examiner's packet. Now we're going to do a clap back. I'm going to clap a rhythm, and then you have to clap it back to me. So here's the first example. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let me do it one more time. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now you clap it.
Level 2 keyboard exam is very similar to Level 1 test. Students are tested in all the same areas: pentascales, triads, sight playing, playback, and clapbacks. The new practical skill in Level 2 is harmonization of a melody with tonic and dominant chords. This level includes pentascales and triads in all 12 major and minor keys. Rhythms include eighth notes, and students at this level are not expected to know key signatures, so all the sharps and flats are written in front of the notes, and no key signatures are written at the start of staves. Similarly to Level 1, each pentascale is worth 2 points because we are interested in 2 different concepts: pitch content and motion. If the student plays the correct pitches, award 1 point. If the student needs to play by ear or corrects their mistakes based on the sound, do not award points for pitches. Award an additional point if the student plays the pentascale with both hands in the correct motion, that is, parallel or contrary motion. If they perform the pentascale incorrectly at first, realize it was wrong, and then restart, you may not give credit. They must perform the correct direction the first time. If a student has a false start but has not done anything incorrectly, the student may still receive full credit. However, if a student takes 2 or more false starts, do not award points. Triads are straightforward. If the student plays the correct pitches, they earn credit for that particular triad. As with the pentascales, if their finger slips but they instantly play the correct answer, you may award points as long as the student appears to know what the correct answer is. If the student plays multiple triads and can only find the correct one by sound, award no points. Again, students must play the triad correctly on their first attempt. Sight playing at Level 2 follows the same directions as Level 1: tapping or clapping the rhythm, identifying intervals, identifying the tonic of the piece, playing the pentascale, sight playing the piece, transposing the pentascale, and then transposing the piece. The students will have a sheet that indicates the tasks on their exam. Read each instruction to the student before they complete the requested task. Then you will tell the students for the mode of the piece. For example, say, "This piece is in a major key. What pentascale does it use?" The student only needs to say the correct letter to receive credit. They must also include an accidental if the tonic is in a sharp or flat tonic key. For example, if the piece is in A flat major, a student must say the entire word A flat to receive credit. They receive no points for just saying A. Once the student has identified the tonic, have him or her play that pentascale in parallel motion. Then tell the student to look over the score. Once they are ready, or after 1 minute, they are to play the piece for you. Refer to the rubric included in the examiner's packet to determine what score to give the student. For example, if the sight playing example is out of 5 points, you may award the student a score ranging from 0 to 5. A 5 performance is an excellent performance with a steady tempo. For example, a 4 performance is a good performance, but there may be some errors or the tempo is unsteady. For example, a 3 performance is fair, but there are many errors and the tempo is usually unsteady. For example, a student struggles with a 2 performance. They have multiple errors, but do ultimately make it to the end. For example, award 1 point if the student plays anything. Only award no points if the student refuses to play the excerpt. And last, if a student plays in the wrong octave, they are misreading the score. They should lose 1 point for incorrect octave on the sight playing. When transposing, however, the octave does not matter. The harmonization exercise is graded similar to the sight playing. Use the rubric indicated in the examiner's packet when determining the student's score. They will receive points for playing the right hand alone, points for playing the left hand chords alone, and points for putting both hands together. The students may play chords in any octave on the piano and in any position. As long as the harmonies convey the sense of tonic and dominant, students may receive credit. The tonic chord should always be in root position with all 3 notes sounding. But a dominant harmony may be performed in many different ways. Examples of dominant harmony in the key of C include a 2-note 5/7 chord, a 3-note 5/7 chord, a root position 5, or even a 5 in first inversion. As with the level 1, cover your hands when performing the playbacks so the student cannot see them. Inform the student which pentascale you will play and that the melody will only use notes of that particular pentascale. Give a short pause before a second playing. Then show the student the tonic note. For the clapback, count aloud 2 measures of a steady quarter note beat. Then clap the rhythm in the examiner's packet. After a short pause, announce you will clap the rhythm again. Count 2 measures aloud with a steady quarter note beat. Then clap the rhythm again in the examiner's packet. Have the student then clap the rhythm back to you.
The Level 3 keyboard exam is the first theory exam in which students will need to move their hands out of a 5-finger pattern. Students will need to play octave scales in major and minor keys with up to 2 sharps or 2 flats, with one hand using finger crossings. They will also need to extend their hand to an interval of a sixth. The first element in the keyboard exam is scales and cadences. Students are awarded up to 2 points per scale. They receive 1 point for ascending pitches and 1 point for descending pitches. As in level 1 and 2 with pentascales, if a student's finger slips or they have a false start, you may still award full points as long as the student appears to know what the correct answer is. If the student needs to play by ear or has multiple false starts, do not award points for that portion, either ascending or descending portion of the scale. Students receive an additional point for performing an authentic cadence. The authentic cadence performed at the end of the scale may be played in any manner as long as the last 2 chords convey a sense of dominant to tonic. The cadence may be played with one or both hands, in any octave, and with any kind of chord inversion or spacing. Some examples of authentic cadences include the tonic with the 2-note dominant 7th, back to tonic. The tonic with a 3-note dominant 7th, back to tonic. The 3-note dominant 7th to tonic. Root position dominant to tonic. The accompaniment style with 3 notes in the left hand and 1 in the right. And keyboard style with 3 notes in the right hand and 1 note in the left. Chords are straightforward and must be played in root position. Students are allowed 1 attempt. If they play the chord correct, they receive full points. If they need to play by ear to find the correct answer, they receive no points. Sight playing. As with earlier levels, the sight playing has multiple tasks that are listed on the student's exam sheet, as well as in the examiner's packet. You must read the instructions aloud to the student before they complete each task. Clapping or tapping the rhythm, identifying intervals by size and direction, identifying the key and mode, sight playing, and transposing. For clapping rhythm and identifying intervals, count the number of mistakes the student makes to determine the score. When identifying the key, the student must correctly identify the tonic as well as the mode to receive full credit. If the student answers incorrectly, you must provide them with the correct answer. Once the student knows the key, have him or her play the scale for no points with either hand in any octave. Allow the student to look over the score and perform it for you either when they are ready or after about a minute. Most students will be ready within 30 seconds, but do allow up to a minute if they need the time. Score the performance on a scale of 0 to 5. As with levels 1 and 2, score the performance based on the rubric found in the examiner's packet. This is the first level in which students play with a key signature. We do not supply accidentals in front of pitches anymore. If, for example, a student performs all the correct rhythms, intervals, keeps a steady beat, but performs in the incorrect key signature, consider this only one mistake. If what would have been an otherwise 5 performance, award the student 4 points. Consider, for example, a student playing an excerpt in F major. If the student plays all the correct pitches, with the exception of B flats, rhythms, and maintains a steady beat, award the student a 4. Correct rhythm and steady pulse should always be expected for a perfect score. As with level 2, the melody and harmony exercise is broken into 3 parts: playing the melody alone, playing the harmony alone, and playing both hands together. The student will receive 4 points for each component, for a total of 12 points for the melody and harmony item. As with sight playing, follow the rubric when determining how many points to award. Remember to account for pitch material, rhythm, and steady beat when deciding which score to award. When students play chords, they receive credit if they play a chord that gives the impression of the requested chord. For example, dominant 7th chords may be played in multiple ways. Some ways include, but are not limited to, the 2-note dominant 7th, the 3-note dominant 7th, root position dominant, the root position dominant 7th, and the inverted dominant. When the student plays both parts together, score on the overall performance, not solely on melody or harmony. A 4 performance maintains a steady beat, plays all the correct pitches and rhythms, and aligns the hands correctly. It is possible to receive a perfect score of a 4 if, for example, a student slips or they have one false start. As long as the student appears to know what the correct answer is, you can still award full points. If, however, the student has multiple false starts, repeats measures, or slips multiple times, consider the other elements, such as rhythm and beat, in determining if the student should receive a 2 or a 3. If the rhythms are correct, the hands aligned, and the beat is generally in place, award 3 points. If the student appears to struggle and cannot produce a steady beat, only award 2 points. Remember, if the student plays anything, they receive 1 point. Only award 0 points if the student refuses to play. Playback in level 3 is similar to playback in level 1 and 2. Cover your hand before performing the excerpt. Tell the student the pentascale you will use and that the melody will stay within the pentascale. Play the tonic triad, then play the example twice with a short pause between each playing. Show the student where to begin. Listen for both pitch and rhythm. Award 3 points if the student is very close. They can even have up to 2 errors in rhythm or pitch to still receive a perfect score. Use the rubric in the examiner's packet to determine the score.
The Level 4 keyboard exam builds on skills the student developed in Level 3. The key signatures used in this level expand from 2 sharps and flats to 4 sharps and flats. The range of melodies is also larger, spanning a 7th rather than a 6th. More complex rhythms are integrated in the sight playing examples, and harmonies now include tonic, predominant, and dominant chords. Scale and cadence. Each scale is worth 2 points. A student must play a perfect scale to receive any points. However, they may use any fingering, play in any octave, and play with either hand to receive credit. If a student plays incorrect pitches and needs to hear the sound to know if it is correct or not, do not award points for this scale. If, however, the student's finger slips due to a slip-in technique, you may still award full points as long as the student appears to know what the correct answer is. The authentic cadence is worth 1 point and should be played at the end of the scale. It can be played in any manner as so long as the last 2 chords convey a sense of dominant to tonic. It can be played with 1 or 2 hands, in any octave, and with any kind of inversions or spacing. The same kinds of cadences are discussed in Level 3 are also appropriate in Level 4. The student will be asked to play a series of triads. If they play the correct keys, you will award full points. Triads may be played in any octave, with any hand, and with any combination of fingers. As long as they play the correct pitches, they are to receive full credit. If a student plays the wrong triad and can only find the correct one by way of its sounds, do not award points for that triad. If, for example, a student plays the triad correctly the first time, but his or her finger slips, you may still award points as long as the student knows what the triad is. In other words, grade based on the first sound the student makes. The first attempt must be correct to receive points. Students will be asked to play a chord progression based on Roman numerals and in a key. The student may play the scale before the chord progression. When the student does play the chord progression, he or she receives 1 point for each correct chord. The student may play the chords in any octave, with 1 or 2 hands, in any inversion, and with any kind of spacing. Some ways you might hear students perform a chord progression 1, 4, 5, 7, 1 include the following. For example, one hand in close position. One hand with all the chords in root position. Two hands in close position. Two hands in keyboard style. Two hands in accompaniment style. In Level 4, the sight playing example does not prepare the student by clapping the rhythm or naming intervals first, but asks the student to sight play and transpose right away. The student is asked to name the key of the piece. They receive either all the points for the correct answer or no points for anything else. If the student answers incorrectly, you must tell them the correct key. After identifying the key of the sight playing example, have the student play the scale. They are not scored on the scale. The scale is only an opportunity for them to think about playing in the key. Allow the student up to a minute to look over the example. Then have them play it for you. Refer to the rubric in the examiner's packet when deciding what score to award a student. Reserve the perfect score of a 6 for the student who can keep a steady beat and project both rhythms and pitches correctly. Use a 4 or a 5 for performances that are not perfect but show that the student understands the material. Scores of 1, 2, or 3 are reserved for students who clearly do not understand how to sight play, have difficulty maintaining a steady beat, forget the key signature, or play incorrect rhythms or notes. As in Level 3, students are scored 3 separate times, once for playing the right hand, once for playing the chords, and once for putting both hands together. When the student plays the melody, refer to the rubric in the examiner's packet for determining the score. Use 4 for an excellent performance with a steady beat, a 3 for a good performance, but there might be some wrong notes, rhythms, or an unsteady beat. A 2 for a fair performance. The student struggles, but does make it through. 1 for anything, and only use 0 points if the student does not play. Use similar judgment when scoring the melody as you did when you scored the sight playing. When judging the left-hand chords, score this as you did for chord progressions. Student receives points if the chord is correct. They may play these chords in any octave, in any inversion, and with any spacing or voicing. Some students will stay in close position, while others will use all root position chords. Again, both performances are considered correct. When the student puts both parts together, Score the performance as a whole. Avoid focusing just on the melody, just on chords, just the pitch content, or just the rhythm. Take into account all aspects of the overall sound picture the student creates when providing a score. As usual, refer to the examiner's packet when determining your score. Award 4 points for an excellent melody, harmony, and a steady beat. Use 3 points for a good performance, but perhaps has a few errors with melody, harmony, or a steady beat. 2 points is a fair performance. The student struggles but makes it through. Award 1 point for any attempt and only use 0 points if the student refuses to play. An exam should be a positive experience for students. The exam is an opportunity for students to show what they know. When in doubt, always assume the student is correct. Also, when in doubt, award a higher score rather than a lower one. All the while, you as the judge are to remain fair and neutral to everyone. Sometimes the judge's work is easy. A student clearly knows the material and can pass with high distinction. It is the gray area that makes judging difficult, when a judge encounters the in-betweens. Always take into account the overall picture and avoid getting stuck on small details.
If you have further questions, always ask your site administrator on testing day. If you have other questions, you can always turn to the MMTA's Judges Education Committee, as well as the Theory Development Committee. It's been our pleasure sharing with you the judging techniques for our Minnesota Music Teachers Association theory exams. You play an important part in this process, and the exams would otherwise be impossible without you.
Thank you.